Good morning, folks. I'm Donald Ware, here to introduce Paola Harris, who comes from both Italy and Colorado. Paola is a photojournalist, an investigative reporter, and a freelance writer. She is was a good friend of Colonel Philip Corso, and she's the one who brought Monsignor Balducci to the X Conference 2 years ago. I was highly impressed by her first book, Connecting the Dots, Making Sense of the UFO Phenomenon. And I'm really looking forward to reading her latest book, Exopolitics, How Does One Speak to a Ball of Light? She is one of the few voting members of the Exopolitics Institute. Please welcome the Barbara Walters of ufology, Paola Harris.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for coming this fine morning. And I was backstage getting ready to come on, and I was thinking this is harder than I've ever done before because I want to spend 2 minutes talking about a very, very close friend and a very, very powerful, powerful energy that was on planet Earth, and that's Terry Brown. And I live in Boulder, Colorado during the winter, and I spent about an hour with Terry in the hospital in December. And they had brought her down in a wheelchair, and we had decided that we were going to sit there and look at the Rocky Mountains together. So we sat there for an hour looking out at the Rocky Mountains, and she was all, with all the tubes and everything, and we were kidding around and talking, and she says to me, Paula, she says, when I was at home, some very strange things happened in my house, very paranormal things, like I'd be watching my soap opera, and the channel would turn to the kids' channel and cartoons by itself, and it would turn to the Disney Channel by itself, and it happened for 2 or 3 days. And she said, and that was kind of irritating. I was in the middle of watching something, and all at once, the television would turn on its own. And she said, what do you think that could mean? And I sat for a while and thought, and I said, I don't know, Terry, but maybe you have poltergeist activity. I don't know what happened. And then I saw the poster for this year, and you can see it here. There was a message being given to Terry, as there is a message being given to all of us, that this is about the future, this is about children, this is about passing the baton. And it was being given to her in a paranormal way. And I always think this is like Nikki and Heather. And if you look at these two little girls, I don't know how many people have noticed the difference in this year's poster and all the other posters in all the other years. They're laughing and they're happy, and guess what's happening? They're here. The UFOs are in the sky. So I look very, very carefully for messages. I look very, very carefully. I call them cosmic messages. And I'm so thrilled that this poster coincided with that message that was given to Terry, because that's exactly what's going to happen. The future, which is, Heather, Crystal, Bob, and Nikki, will be carrying on a legacy that is so important for planet Earth, because I think everybody was talking about this. This Congress is where everybody meets. This Congress is where you come to see your friends. This Congress is where it is comfortable to speak about this. No one laughs at you. You get the latest information, some incredible speakers. I've spent so much time in this room instead of at my book table, so forgive me, because I am doing double duty. Every morning at 6 or 7, I run across the street to the saloon, that muddy Rudder Saloon, and I have to report the story to Maurizio Baiada, my boss. By the way, he sends his greetings at Area 51 magazine. I don't do old news, so I have to report every day on the speakers and what's happening, and then I'll send him the JPEG pictures. But I'm covering this story for Italy. It will be on all the newsstands. This Congress will be, you can buy it over the counter at all the newsstands in Italy, so this is getting out there. And the most wonderful, wonderful thing of all is that this is the legacy that each one of us would like to leave behind on the planet, but this is the legacy of Terry Brown. So let's give an applause for this legacy of Terry Brown. Okay, well, I want to give you the latest, so we'll start with something very interesting. For me, the UFO over O'Hare Airport was a signal. For me, when I heard about this, because I was here in the United States in December, I said, oh my God, if a UFO can sit over O'Hare Airport and nobody can do anything about it, something is coming down. Because just imagine if there's one sitting over O'Hare, one at Fiumicino, one at Heathrow, all at the same time. It's over. I mean, you can't explain it to the people, and it's over. It was a daring act on the part of some UFO group. And what I'd like to do, since I'm in the news business and I'm in the communications business, I'd like to show you a clip, maybe some of you have seen it, about the dilemma that the news people have when a UFO story that is credible comes on the news. Now, I want you to notice one thing. We can start getting the clip ready. The poor newsman in the television studio is trying to figure out how he's going to report the story. The man at the Chicago Tribune is saying, look, this is real. I've gotten some real backup for this. And the man is going, well, what about the FAA? What do they say? Well, pilots at United are saying this. And this is going backwards and forwards between news media, which is print media, and television media. And this is the big dilemma with the media that we'll have. It's absolutely hilarious, but I want you to see, because this is the real story about reporting UFO stories. And this time, they had no choice. Okay, should we run the clip?
Headline edition, July 8, 1947.
That's not the clip. It's the O'Hare clip.
I looked at it and I thought I was seeing it.
You've got to go back to O'Hare. It's the first one. All right. That other clip, and I'll talk a little bit, is the second clip, and that is there are two, for me, documentaries that have come out that are incredible, very well done, and that is Fast Walkers, which you may have seen last night, and then Jose Escamilla's The Greatest Story Ever Denied. I don't know if you've seen that, but that is amazing. It has a lot of the disclosure witnesses edited in there, but it has NASA footage edited in there, and it's done beautifully. I did an interview with Jose Escamilla about that, and and he had a lot of passion. I know he's famous from doing the rods. I don't know if you know of him, but he's put a lot of passion into The Greatest Story Ever Denied and has a soundtrack that is absolutely amazing that goes with that. So I think that, some very well-made documentaries are going to be making a difference. Are we ready? There we go.
Oh, hey, there's John. Hey, John.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Well, fine, thanks.
Raise
how are
the
you?
voice a little.
Busy with this UFO
Oh,
stuff.
my God. Did you see it hit the Fox crawl Monday night?
Did it? It's just been
Yes.
everywhere. I mean, I've been on CNN, my fourth appearance today.
Really?
Every MSNBC, every network,
Oh, my goodness.
and just worldwide. I mean,
Yeah.
Australia, everywhere.
That's what we're going to start off. I'm going to say, and John, the response has been, well, out of this world, hasn't it? Congratulations. So where's the latest on the investigation, the FAA, then?
Well,
Or is it by this time tomorrow going to prove
yeah,
a lot?
United is now acknowledging that they were approached by employees, so they've done that flip-flop, and I'm trying to locate photos of this. I'm told there may be photos.
Really? Wow. That would be cool. I'm told that the story on CT
Right.
has almost 1 million hits.
Yeah, it's the most read story in the history of CT.com.
You're kidding me.
No, I got an email yesterday from Bill Adee.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, yeah, in the entire history of the website.
Oh, incredible.
So,
Incredible. So does the possibility exist you might get the pictures and get them in for tomorrow? Or?
Oh,
Can
no,
you say
I
that?
don't think, no. I mean, I'm told the pilots on that plane that was being pushed back, you know, I said in the story that they opened the windscreen and stuck their head out. Now I'm being told that one of them had a digital camera and snapped some pictures.
Wow.
So United's not playing ball with me, and FAA, I've expanded my FOIA to include the flight plan, which might include the pilots' names. And I'm trying to work with the union as well.
Are they still going by weather phenomenon?
FAA, you know, pretty much because of the federal holiday, I haven't talked to them that much. But yeah, they haven't changed their story, and I've just heard from other people, you know, since then that, you know, that explanation just doesn't wash.
And they haven't gone out of their way to say anything otherwise so far?
No, I mean, they say, you know, it was November 7th. They're moving on. They're just doing their daily thing.
Well, I tell you what, all the people who saw it must be feeling a little validated right about now, huh?
Oh yeah, and I'm getting tons of emails from other people who outside the airport as well as at O'Hare, who also either cited that same object or saw the hole in the sky and said, "What is that?"
Wow. Okay, so what did it look like again to the folks who saw it? It was a saucer-like
Yeah, it
object
was
hovering over
this
the
shape.
United terminal, right?
Yeah, right over, directly over gate C-17. And it was stationary in the sky, dark gray metallic, you know, like I say, saucer shaped, no lights, and it was there for some minutes. And then when it disappeared, it just streaked through the clouds with such energy that it broke a big blue hole in the overcast, and the hole remained there for several minutes until the wind drifted and pushed the clouds back together.
So the blue was the sky.
Yeah, the blue was the
Wow.
sky, but otherwise the entire skyline was cloudy.
Totally overcast, huh?
So you know, it's nothing. An airplane just doesn't react like that. It does. It slices through, and it doesn't disturb the atmosphere.
Do you have other interviews set up after this, John?
Yeah, I'm going back on a radio station, a couple of radio stations this afternoon, and then Headline News has a show I'm doing at 3 o'clock.
Okay. Ooh, I'll have to watch if I'm... Yeah, I'll be off the set
Yeah.
by then. Okay, Australia, what other international?
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I mean, all over Europe.
Oh my gosh.
You know, hearing from people, you know, Ireland, they say, you know, we heard about what's happening at O'Hara.
I mean, Butch O'Hara.
I mean, just as well as serious, you know, researchers at major U.S. universities who've attempted to do their own investigations, and when they go to the government to try to get information, they get stonewalled. So there really is this universal feeling that the government knows a lot more than it's willing to tell.
Man, okay. Okay.
I'm just going to say, you know,
Okay, here we go.
but
I think it's so cool that I was the first one to get to talk to you about it.
that's right, last Friday.
Yay. Okay. The UFO hair story the Chicago Tribune exclusively broke on New Year's Day is garnering attention around the world. Joining us now to talk about it once again is Tribune transportation writer John Hilkovich, who broke the story. And John, the response has been, well, out of this world, hasn't it?
Yes, it has been astronomical, Jim. Every major country, it seems, people have written in, both those who claim they've spotted UFOs during their life, as well as serious researchers. I mean, just the last 2 days, this is my email, and these are the serious emails. You know, the ones from kooks who said they were brought aboard alien spacecraft, I put in a circular file. So it's just a story that has legs, and people are fascinated by the thought, and I think there's some belief that there are advanced life forms that are visiting us here on a regular basis.
You've been contacted now in the last few days by several countries, but that also includes serious university researchers here in the U.S. You know, I got to tell you, too, I got a call from my dad in California Monday night, and he's like, what is up with the O'Hare UFO story? I'm like, where did you see that? Where did you read that? Well, it was on Fox Network's Crawl at the bottom. It's just amazing how much this is garnering.
Yeah, it really is, and worldwide attention, as you say. And from people who have made observations themselves, including on November 7th, the date of this incident, additional people both at O'Hare and outside the airport who have either seen this gray disc-shaped metallic object themselves, or they saw that huge hole in the sky that the object created when it vanished.
Let's go over that one more time. What did people see when it all of a sudden vanished right through the clouds over the United Terminal? And then how's the FAA been reacting the past few days too? Any new ground on that?
Okay. Well, the object was hovering in a stationary position about 1,500 feet above the United Terminal for some minutes, and then when it left, it just burst through this thick cloud layer, creating a large open space of blue sky on an otherwise overcast day. It took some minutes for that opening to close up when the clouds drifted back together. And it's just extremely unusual, according to the witnesses. I mean, airplanes just don't react like this. They slice through clouds, and they really don't disturb the atmosphere that much, except for the wingtips and such. The FAA is still, pinning this to some kind of weather phenomenon, that some lights from the airport and the overcast skies somehow got together and created this image. But weather experts, astronomy experts, others that I've talked to said that that's bunk. That explanation just doesn't wash. United, on the other hand, after first denying that they got any reports from employees about this sighting, is now saying, yes, indeed, their employees did approach them immediately because of concerns about safety.
And to reiterate, John, the witnesses who originally came to you are all seasoned, professional, credible professionals like pilots who saw this.
They're pilots, they're senior managers, they're mechanics, and others. So, they are very truthful about what they're saying, and we're trying to locate photographs, if they do exist, of this incident.
Well, John, we know you have plenty of other interviews to do today with other countries, so we'll let you go and we'll keep our eyes to the sky. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Don't you think that is significant? For me, as a journalist, I can identify with both sides of this story, because here are the poor people that are not these poor professional journalists and television personalities are not prepared. And that's really what's happening. Somebody should prepare them, and somebody should prepare the earth, because this is a problem that will come up more and more. This was one sighting over O'Hare, but if they ever decide, and this is in the hands of the ETs, to do a mass sighting over airports. And airports are not military installations. They are where people are working that know the difference between an airplane and a UFO. That's why those people at United, and I wouldn't have put it past United to do some kind of commercial campaign this year saying, fly United, we have UFOs, whatever, because that's what we tend to do with UFO sightings, use them for commercial purposes. But anyway, I think that is one of the most significant events ever, because it is uncontrolled. In other words, you cannot control where they appear. And this was seen by a lot of people. It went worldwide. You heard how many hits that particular website had. And of course, in Europe, we wanted the first pictures. There are pictures, they just haven't come out. In the next couple of months, you'll see video from video phones and pictures of this sighting. Okay, they cannot explain it, so what happens is we're left with a reality. And as time starts approaching where disclosure will happen, and I'm pretty sure it will happen in our lifetime, you will see more and more of these unscheduled events. And the next one I want to show you very quickly, it's very short, is the London sighting in February over Gateway. And this is also on the internet. 15 UFOs are flying over London. I don't think they are on vacation. So let's see the second clip, because these are the two major sightings that I think warrant our attention, mainly because they happened. One happened in 2006, the other one in 2007. This is a Gateway one, and when you have a video phone, look in the sky, you'll see on the right-hand side, they're all looking up in the sky. You should see 15 dots. You see them, they're in the sky, they're all moving, somewhat like the flotilla over Mexico, but this is London. And they're all watching them. And what I found out happened was that they thought it was a terrorist attack. So the people got very upset, because seeing 15 lights in the sky for them was very, very uncomfortable. And so That's another reason why people should be prepared, because this is a phenomenon that is happening not only in Mexico, but in Madrid and in different places in the world. So it's normal for us researchers to see this kind of thing, but not maybe for the average person walking down the street. So I wanted to start my presentation with two incidents, one in November 7th of 2006, and this other one in February, telling you that it's going to get very, very obvious that we're not alone. So I'm going to go to my PowerPoint right now and start talking about my research of this year and my new book. So I will, we switch over, here we go. All right, you may recognize some of these people. For many, many years, I have brought over researchers at my own expense to Italy. And I, this year, brought Ryan Wood. You can see him near the Coliseum, and there's Stephen Bassett, he came last year, and Nick Pope and Esin Sakurara from Turkey. And I am going to entitle this presentation, How Do You Speak to a Ball of Light? Because I'm going to be talking also about orbs. And I'm going to be as intelligent entities in a new phenomenon that we need to look at. And then I want to entitle it Exopolitics, the challenges and protocols for the future, because I think people should be prepared. So I am looking at the intent of my presentation to demonstrate the need for protocols, since definite contact will be happening and has already happened. And it can't be an incidental, let's fly by our pants type thing. I'm sure there are protocols in government. So there need to be protocols on a galactic diplomacy citizen level, because they're going to the citizens, they're coming to you. The O'Hare situation is a group of people on the ground, so we need to look at this situation. My first book was a series of interviews, Preparing the Way. My second book is about going one step further, about making the study of ufology, which I have personally looked at as exopolitics, because I would love to see it in universities and schools as a serious study. Look, Carl Sagan did exobiology with Cornell University. He was okay with doing exobiology. Why can't we do exopolitics, which is the study of life from other planets? It is absolutely the most sane way to prepare people for contact. Okay, in my protocols, and they're very tiny here, I talk about the procedures for having contact. In other words, looking at this, whether it's time travel or interdimensional travel, looking at contact, and in particular in my book I talk about the Virginia case as being prepared for the contact with people because from other planets, because we may face some contamination risks, and so might they. And then I talk about a method of communication, and it was wonderful to hear Jim Sparks yesterday, because people, people that come from out of this planetary sphere are not going to school to learn English, Italian, French, and all the other languages, and yet they are communicating with the people of Earth in those languages. We have made no effort to prepare to communicate with them in their language, which obviously would be telepathy. We have not really honed our skills on planet Earth, a skill that we have in order to communicate with them. And yet, I'm going to talk about a contactee in northern Italy. They spoke to him in Italian. They have made an effort. The communication has come about in a language. So I think that how would you speak to an orb, ball of light, or an intelligent entity? There is only one way, and that would be a telepathic communication. These are the interviews in the new book, because as a journalist, I do word-for-word interviews. And these are the people that I have interviewed. Now, you recognize them. Edgar Mitchell is a good friend. He talks about quantum cosmology. Stephen Greer, I have two interviews, one about the death of the fourth estate or the media. And then the last part of my book, he does the CSETI protocols, which is an attempt to communicate on that level, telepathically and spiritually. The Honorable Paul Hellyer. I did the interview last year with Paul Hellyer, and Bob tells me that the tape is still available on the table. That is a historical document. That is a brave man. I mean, you've heard Stephen Bassett talk about he went public. He's becoming what's called the poster boy for ufology. It is a big risk because of who he is. And then there's a interview by Colonel Philip Corso from a DVD that we had. Now, Dan Burrish, let me say something about this. I've seen him 3 times. Bill Hamilton did the first interview, and he did an excellent job. He's a scientist. Linda Moulton Howe did the second work with him. And she came to Italy and did an excellent job with presentations. I was curious for 2 things. Because he talked about a communication with a J-Rod alien, number 1, and he talked about Stargates, number 2. Stargate technology is very real. Whether they're artificial Stargates or created by us or natural ones in the earth. Now, this kind of technology, for me, explains a lot of the UFO activity. He is very knowledgeable about that. Now, working with Dan Burrish, I have an interview and also a design of the looking glass technology in my book. But my belief is, because these stories are controversial, and people make decisions without ever speaking to the witnesses, my belief is that we need to speak to him. He has agreed to come here tomorrow, Saturday, for 1 hour, around 1 o'clock, for anybody that has a question, respectfully asked and respectfully answered. And so that is my job, is really to get to the absolute, the source. He has agreed because he has his own DVD where he speaks. I usually go straight to the source. Kiwani, a long time ago, some friends of mine gave me a book about the psychic Sasquatch, and I said, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do this kind of story. And yet, when I heard Kiwani or Jack Leoparditis speak, and he had film footage of these beings. He has incredible film footage, not just the Patterson film, of these beings from all over the United States and Europe. I could not deny that they exist. They come out of dimensional portholes. They have families. They are another group of what we call interdimensional beings. So I couldn't close my eyes to that. In my book, I have a word-for-word interview with Kiwani. But also it goes with my protocol section, because these beings, when they're seen in the forest, if they detect that you have any aggression, are very not only afraid of you, but they could attack if you have a gun or a rifle. He says, I asked Kiwani, I say, well, if we see one, what should we do? And he said, put down any arms and say to them, I am here, I would like to, communicate with you on a peaceful level and project a feeling of calmness. That's part of the protocol. To freak out when we see these different beings or these different races, and some of them, like the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, exist, is not a good way to start a communication with any kind of interdimensional being. And I appreciated him when he gave me the material for my protocol section of the book. Yvonne Smith does an incredible job with psychotherapy and psychotherapy work with contactees. And she is coming to Italy to a conference I'm arranging, and will also be in Ireland. She's really very, very compassionate and kind and listens. I think that's one of the things that these people need to do, because some of these stories are so different. I'm saying the word different, that it's very hard to digest, and we need special human beings to listen to them. So she is one of them, and Dr. John Mack, how could I forget him? 2 days he spent with me and my mom in our apartment in Rome, and did the Florence conference just before he died. He has an interview in my book called A New World View, which coincides with what Stephen Greer said, which coincides with Philip Corso in A New World, If You Can Take It, and I think I owed it to John Mack to put this in my book. It is a challenge and an invitation to humanity to open up their minds, to look at a new worldview, to usher in a new age. And then the Jason Andrews story, I actually went to London and stayed in Jason's home, and I was supposed to stay there 6 days and lasted 3. because of the very paranormal activity that there is around Jason Andrews. It's very, I don't have time to talk about it at this conference, but I experienced what Jason and Ann Andrews were talking about. It was very scary, but it was very peaceful. I mean, I had never heard, one of the things that happened is the second night, someone awoke me from my sleep calling my name, and he was outside, not inside my head. He was in the room. I could not see anything. That had never happened, and other things happened while I was there. I was trying to cover this story. The paranormal is mixed in with the UFO situation because it is all one. For us, anything that is not in our sphere is considered paranormal. A.J. Gevard talks about the Virginia situation in the book because Virginia, with the death of that young fireman who put the little creature on his lap, the little creature did not give any resistance, but you don't do that automatically, just putting a being that comes from somewhere else on your lap. And the fireman had died 2 weeks later, and he goes into detail about the autopsy, about how that happened and so forth, as an example, as an actual example that we need to be careful. It was a very peaceful interaction, but we need to be careful. These are people or beings from other places. And Al Bielek talks about time travel, Philadelphia experiment, and I'm very interested in that and dimensional gates. I want to start right away. My book is built around the Oppenheimer-Einstein document, and I was talking to Ryan Wood about this. Please go on Majestic Documents and read this. This document was written by Einstein and Oppenheimer before the Roswell incident. It went out in June of 1947. It talks about what do we do when these people start coming here? Can we put some protocols in place? It says there should be one entity that greets them. I mean, where do they go? China? You want them to go to Italy? You want them to go to America? You want them to go to South America? Who represents planet Earth for these populations? And Einstein and Oppenheimer addressed this and addressed the fact that there are more sightings after the atomic bomb blasts. Therefore, guess what? They're coming. And we need to do something about it. Two intelligent men that took the responsibility. The document is amazing. You should go to the website that Ryan has and Majestic Documents. I'm surprised people haven't read this before. They call them celestial bodies. Celestial, that was their word for it. And basically, that top secret document, those two men wanted it to go to Truman, but Vannevar Bush said no. He said it is not the case to give it to the president. You can't see this very much, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker. But it says if these beings come to Earth and they want to be a part of the Earth cultures, we've got to respect their culture. This is Einstein and Oppenheimer saying this in 1947. The respect for other cultures. They did not say take them, dissect them, kill them, put them in refrigeration. They said they are cultures. They are cosmic cultures. Now here's the O'Hare Airport sighting. I wanted to show you what photographs we do have. And are they coming to Earth? Yes. Is it getting to be even greater, the sightings? Well, this is the American ones. I can imagine what Jaime and Santiago will be talking about because they gather all the ones from around the world. And so, yes. In other words, is it happening? London, over the skies of London? Yes, and that's 2007. This is a situation where we are being visited by several cultures, and we can't just sit around and not do anything about it. So I showed some photos of the different cultures, and this is the Roswell party. This is a photo that was taken in 1997, what I call the Roswell party, the 50th anniversary, and the 60th is happening this year. We'll be in Roswell. I think Ryan will be there. I know Yvonne will be there. Several people will be there because that has become the mecca for people that are interested in this. And I have invited Jesse Marcel Jr. to come to Rome. I'm doing my part by bringing these people over to Italy. I have invited Jesse Marcel Jr. April 1st. The Italians are euphoric. They know the Roswell incident. They know this happened. They read. They know. And when they see Jesse Marcel Jr. walk in, and he talks about the I-beams, and he talks about his father spreading out all this debris, they will be, in other words, given proof that everything they've read is real because they have a real witness. I must say that this is the second last conference I will sponsor in Italy, because in June 16th, I'm going to move back to the United States, because I've been in Europe for 14 years and it's time to come home. So I will definitely, I'm going to give this conference for the Italians, plus on May 12th, Richard Dolan is coming to Milano to speak to the Italians in a huge conference, and we've been preparing for him because his work is very, very important as far as credible research. You know, in our conferences, we really want this to come out. It is important. It defines not only who we are, but what's going to happen in the future. So it is a privilege to have these people. Now I'm going to go into something else, and I'm going to prepare you for this, because I am famous for not wanting to do contact cases. I do usually astronauts, intelligence, military, and I cover other kinds of cases. Well, this year I was invited by the universe to look into this particular contact case. I was asked by a woman in Venice to do a conference with a contactee called Maurizio Cavallo that I had never heard of. I didn't know who in the world he was. And she said, we want the magazine to come up and we'll do a conference with you and this contactee. And they gave me a date, and I contacted him, and he said, well, I'm going to be in France. He lives in Piemonte, which is near Torino, where the Olympics were, and in a small village. And he says, well, I'm an artist, he said, and I do a lot of work out of France. It's on the French border. I won't be available. And something inside me said, Paula, this is important. You need to go there, even though you're not going to do the conference with him. And so I waited for an opportunity. I was speaking in Torino to a huge group at a bookstore, and I said, do you mind if I come and see who you are and the material you have? And do you mind if you tell me your story? I'll just listen. I promise to report word for word. I won't put my spin on it and anything. And he said, yes. He said, you come and see me. He said, and I stayed there 2 days, so I was in a hotel in this small little village, and I did this story, and I will talk about it in a few minutes, because 2 books came out, Maurizio Cavallo's Oltre il Cielo, Beyond the Sky, and another book, which is about the sightings in Pescara in 1957. Now, the reason why I have to do the 2 books is because this is about 2 underwater bases, one in the Adriatic and one in the Ionian. Now, when you think of underwater bases, please add to your data bank, there are humans on the underwater bases. They weren't grays, they weren't other creatures, they are humans. And this case here is a Pescara case. The book is called Contattismi di Massa. This is the craft that was coming out of the water in the 1950s and scared the living daylights out of the fishermen. They would not go fishing. You see the characterization, plus you see the actual craft. And after everyone that was involved with this case died, one of the people that knew about the case began writing about it in detail. It's called Contattismi di Massa. It talks about human-like aliens that lived on the Pescara coast among us in the 1950s, and you're looking at one of them. He is over 7 feet high. He is in this book, and this book discusses about the group that was here to talk to political figures, politicians, people that had power, in order to integrate the human race into the knowledge, yes, we're here. Now, this is one photograph that comes from this book, and the book in detail talks about this particular contact on the Adriatic coast of Italy. And our researcher, Roberto Pinotti, wrote the preface to this book, and he can substantiate because he knew about it years ago. It's like these people, researchers, know about it years ago, but they wait years before they release the information. There is timing to the slow process release of information. So this is a book that has come out. That is the face of a human-type alien. But this is the man that I went to see quite by accident. And this is the man that said, okay, Paula, I'm going to explain to you that I was contacted, and not voluntarily, by a group of people from Clarion, the planet Clarion, in the constellation of Aquila, which is the eagle. And he said they are human-type aliens. And we've been talking about this at this conference. I've been listening to people mentioning this. He said, I'm going to explain that they live among us. Some of them look so much like us that you could not tell the difference. And he said they have given me a tremendous amount of material. Now you can see the light ship there at the bottom. I'm going to show you some other ships that he gave me pictures of. He has albums and albums of ships that he himself has taken pictures of. He has film footage, and he has the faces, he has photographed the faces of these aliens and hybrid aliens, hybrid human and, mixed aliens, and he has given them to me. So this is the first time I've ever shown them. And this goes with this presentation, with this DVD, because this material is not coming out to be put in any documentaries or anything in the United States, but it will be here at this conference. And he wants it out. He said some of these pictures are Polaroid. They could not be made. They couldn't be enhanced, but they're a little startling, because when you see the faces of these people, there is something quite unusual about them. And I spent 2 days with him. I actually left in tears because I didn't feel that I could do this story. So I called in another researcher. I called in Lavinia Palotta. I said, you're Italian. You can speak Italian better than I. You can do the story better than I. So I pulled her in with me because I said, I can do it in English and they have to translate me. I want you to listen to this man. She also was taken back, and we spent quite a bit of time doing this story. His is his home. He's an artist, so those are paintings. These are some of the ships that he has photographed, but the one that's most beautiful is this one, and this is a light craft. He has many frames of this ship, many, many. And he gave me what little material I could take away right now, but he is very open with the material. This is another photograph of the light ship. He said this is the way they appear before they solidify, a lot of the ships that he has photographed. And then what he did was he gave me the face of a hybrid that he said was quite beautiful. I want you to take a look at it, because I think that's her hair in front of the eyes, the blue eyes. That she's very unusual, and I'd never seen faces before, so I said, is it okay? Do you have their permission? He said, absolutely, we're coming down to the wire. I said, what do you mean we're coming down to the wire? He said, the next few years are critical for planet Earth. They're critical. He said, so the entities or the aliens that he knows said, it's time to get it out there. And this is one face. This is a being in the sixth dimension. He said, this is not in arms, it is not a solid being that has bones and skin. This is a being that appears as a light being in the room, and he says this being is known to us as a cherubim in the old days. It's called a cherubim. He said he has several pictures of beings like this, and they have a raised eyebrow. You can see the raised eyebrow. This is a Clarion child. That other one was a hybrid. This is a Clarion child, and I never understood the contactees that were talking about blue skin or blue cast or whatever. I never understood what they were, talking about, because I thought, how can somebody have blue skin? This child, under her eyes and over the top of her, forehead and so forth, has blue skin. She is a Clarion child. This group of people live in an underground base in the Ionian Sea, and Maurizio told me that when he went to see them, the way they do it is he'd go to the port, he'd get on a boat, they would go out into the middle of the water, and he explained this. He said there was wind and water, and he thought there was going to be a storm. But he said the ocean parted. That is a dimensional gate, obviously. The ocean isn't parting, but he said the ocean parted, and he went down like an elevator to an entire city under the Ionian Sea. And he said they're close by. This is the humanoid, the human that he deals with. This man, he says, walks among us. His name is Suel. He even has a regular job. And he says this man talks to him about the plans of the future, about how he is to help raise the vibrational level of planet Earth. I'm just recounting to you what Maurizio Cavallo told me. I said, I can't tell the difference between this guy and anybody walking in the street. Well, he showed me 6 photographs of people like this male and 7 photographs of women. The women are beautiful also. And I said, they're too beautiful. I said, this looks like, He said, well, if you could create your body, he said, would you create it differently? This is a technology they have to create the body to fit in with the humans, but they're going to create a body that's pleasant to them. And they live for many, many years. He said it is a tragedy humanity has chosen, and also the DNA of humanity has such a short lifespan, because most races that are like us, and he also said that this race seeded the planet with other races. So I'm just reporting to you what he told me. Now I'm going to go back because I think people would like to see Clarion Child. This is the being from the 6th dimension. He's got a name for these that I can't really pronounce. Jihad, I think, and this is the hybrid. He called it a hybrid gray, but I'm not sure he's really clear on that. But this is the hybrid child. And I don't know if it's a child or a woman, but this is an interesting face. Does he have more? Yes, he has more. He just gave me these. This is a landing. I don't know if you can see, but this is a landing, and he's allowed to take these pictures because obviously somebody knew I was going to show them. They already know. They can see the future. They know what's going to happen to these photos. They know who's going to show them. They know everything about what, because there is no time. And this is a landing in Piemonte. Monteferrato is near there. He said that he is called to go there. It's now 20 years. I must tell you, though, he said the first 10 years he hated them. He couldn't go to sleep. He lost his wife and children over this because he was obsessed, because he couldn't act normal, and so they consequently destroyed his life. He lives alone. He's an artist now, and it was not a pleasant situation the first 10 years. The last 10 years, very much like the Jim Sparks story, he said he's grown to understand. I don't know how easy it is to understand. This book came out a long time ago. It is no longer on the market, The Catchers of Heaven. The cover of The Catchers of Heaven, and I did the Michael Wolff story. Someday I will do an entire lecture on Dr. Michael Wolff Cruvant. His amazing story. Jim Carant did it before me. Michael Heseman did it before me. And this had a picture of a humanoid alien, Sarah from Altair 4, who was an interface with the government. These people are around, and I wanted to bring that in also because Michael is no longer with us. And that was a very important book for me to read. Protocols are discussed by people like Oppenheimer and Einstein. And we have to understand that besides the grays and the reptilians, there are people that look like us. There might be somebody here. I mean, I said, well, that gentleman looks so much like human. How do I know? And he goes, it's at high energy level. He said, it's a frequency so high that you turn your head automatically when you see them. He said, you would know, Paula. He said, you can't help but know. These people in my lifetime have helped with disclosure. The book is about really incredible people. J. Allen Hynek, and there's a very young Paula Harris with him in the 1980s, would be so happy to be alive right now if he knew this was happening, because he asked a lot of questions. And so it is very important that we look at this phenomenon seriously, because we're coming to terms with it. In all honesty, the day after Roswell and the dawning of a new age, this is the dawning of a new age in Italian, was also the efforts of another man who is no longer with us, and that's Colonel Philip Corso. He tried. He was telling the truth. He signed the San Marino paper, and we see David Jacobs there with with Gilda Bourdet and different people from all over the world, with Roberto Pinotti, Corso sitting down. That paper went to the United Nations, that from San Marino has nothing to worry about. It's an independent republic. It has no political situation to worry about. There was an effort made, but the person that is doing the most right now, God bless him, is Paul Hellyer. Can we have the Paul Hellyer piece now? Paul Hellyer came to Dr. Sala's, Angelica and Michael Sala had a conference in Hawaii in June. And he came and graced this conference with his presence and talked and spoke about the necessity for disclosure. And instead of my talking about him, I want to bring you the people. And Paul Hellyer can't come here. He's doing what he can from Canada. But I would like to have that clip of Paul Hellyer speaking so that you can see in his humorous way how he talks about disclosure. Also, you have to fast forward. You have to fast forward a little bit. Okay. And what I wanted to say, too, was that the whole entire speech is available at Dr. Sala's table because it's another historic speech. My interview's important, but his speech is very important. We need to take the screen off, the PowerPoint screen off, and then you can put it. Okay. So anyway, what's happening right now is we have another spokesman for the case, and when you hear him speak, you will see how very credible he is. Now, one of the things is that in his position, I've heard criticism on internet, and this gets me every time. He knows nothing about UFOs. How can that Minister of Defense know nothing about UFOs? I mean, here's somebody who's making a comment who probably is a person that, I don't know, does ufology for a hobby, is talking about a Minister of Defense. He knows nothing about UFOs. Some of these statements about Paul Hellyer are so darn ignorant that I can't even let it go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. That much too generous introduction reminded me that if my late mother were here, because she was my mother, she'd believe every word of it. If my late father were here, he would probably, being a realist, wonder who you were talking about. Or as General Eisenhower would say, it was like chewing gum, sweet, okay to taste for a moment or two, but for heaven's sake, don't swallow it. I'm delighted to participate in this conference and would like to thank Dr. Michael Sala and his committee for the invitation. As indicated in the promo, my message is divided into two main themes.
Switching back and forth, let's put the ball
First,
not the ball
who is actually running the
It's the
United
one.
States and other major Western countries?
No, we didn't do the ball of light. Put it on ball of light, and that'll be the last video we show.
And second, what are
I
the
know.
consequences
I
of the
didn't even get through half
long-time
of my
cover-up of
presentation.
extraterrestrial
Just do ball of
intelligence
light, and
and
I'll go
advanced
through all the
technology?
orb pictures, and we'll finish. Okay.
It appears that real governance has passed from elected, accountable representatives of the people to an unelected, unaccountable elite group of senior government officials and industrial leaders, an industrial military complex, whose agenda is incompatible with the needs and desires of the population at large. At least that is my unshakable conviction. Evidence indicates that the survival of the planet as a reasonably friendly and hospitable environment is at stake, and that vested interests may be blocking plans to save it before it is too late. Even worse, the military-industrial complex that General Dwight Eisenhower warned us about is creating and producing weapons systems designed to confront visitors from space, and in the process, proceeding to a situation which could be a surefire recipe for possible conflict. One hesitates to contemplate the unknown and potentially disastrous consequences. Only an early and complete disclosure of the truth can save us from our folly. Well, if anyone had suggested a year ago today that today I would be here making a speech in Hawaii in June 2006 on the subject of the extraterrestrial presence on planet Earth and how the visitors and their technology may impact our future, I would have been absolutely astonished. I would have been flabbergasted. I probably would have laughed out loud. Or I might have said, well, you must know something that I don't know. And if I had said that, of course, I would have been right. Anyone who has spent the time and made the effort to inform himself or herself on this subject would have been light years ahead of me in knowledge and understanding. I didn't even know how much I didn't know because I had no inkling of how much there was to know. When I was Minister of Defense in the 1960s, I received reports of sightings with the usual explanations. The majority of investigations, as in other places, had revealed that the sightings were natural phenomena. The others were simply designated unexplained. And I was far too busy, as Michael indicated, integrating the Canadian Armed Forces to ask the kind of question necessary to pique my curiosity. I was interested that Philip Corso was talking this afternoon about the Air Force hogging all of the lion's share of the technology. And that is precisely the reason why many years ago I did something that at the time was considered courageous, which certainly amounted to a war of another kind. And that was to lop off the heads of the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force and to create a Canadian Armed Force. Subsequent ministers have undone most of the...
Okay, this is an incredible, incredible speech, and he's very honest. And I encourage you to have that as part of your historical archive. Now, Paul Hellyer will be in Toronto speaking at the debut of Fast Walkers in March. You can talk to Robert Miles, the director, and Stephen Bassett, who will be there because he has volunteered to step into this arena that is so ridiculed. He has volunteered to be at the Fast Walker premiere in Toronto, which will give credibility to the whole entire excellently done documentary. So we've got some positive things to talk about here. Now, since the book is on ball of light phenomenon, and I had so much more to tell you, I have at least an hour more. I have to cut it really short in all fairness. I would like to show you the fast walker or ball of light phenomenon as it is seen by NASA in the beginning clip from Jose Escamilla's The Greatest Story Ever Denied. Now, I don't know where you can get the DVD. I have just one that was given to me, but it's incredible to see these balls of light. Whenever you want to show it, go ahead. Be in space. NASA has a problem with them. Okay, this is the beginning of that documentary. That is a fast walker. You can see it very closely.
I think it's long past time to open this up to the public.
Give us information to the young people of the world in this country. They want to hear it. They want it. Give it to them. Don't hide it and tell lies and make stories. They're not stupid.
There's a fast walker. And you'll see some more. I have this piece twice because they appear. And it's a problem because they're not conventional craft, but they can actually make themselves into conventional craft. These entities, this is the new kind of frontier to study. There is no answer for it, but this particular kind of light phenomenon is also appearing in digital photographs, and I'm going to show you some really fast examples of them. They are in the book, because I am very fascinated with this kind of, this is alive, this is a craft, and this is an entity, and it's all one. Okay, thank you. Now, going back to the PowerPoint, if we can go back to the PowerPoint, this was a conference that I had in Italy, and this ball of light was photographed over all of us, and as our picture was being taken. If we can switch back to the, okay, and then I want to go through this. This is Adriano Forgione, with whom I work, standing in an Italian crop circle, and I don't know if you notice, that little dot has the face of a child inside. And that was made bigger, it was enlarged, and what we're dealing with is an entity of some kind, intelligent, and it was hovering over Adriano. Now, I don't think he saw it, but we were very aware of this after this picture was taken. He's in a crop circle, so that's part of there's a dynamic. Now, below is Nikki Metcalf at Mount Shasta during one of Stephen Greer's CSETI trainings. Look at how many of these orbs there are. There she is again. On the top is a very ancient site in Sardinia. These people have sent me 30 photographs of orbs, very clear. Down at the bottom is that ancient site. There is something going on there. These aren't ghosts, these are entities. Or maybe these are dimensional travelers. On the top is Rendlesham Forest. When I was in England talking to Jason Andrews and his mother, they said, even visibly to the eye, Rendlesham Forest has orbs. And of course, ball of light phenomenon is everywhere. This is a home that I'm getting all kinds of orb pictures now since I became interested. She showed me a before and after. There was nothing on this part of her house, and then she meditated for a while, and all these orbs showed up. They're not particles of dust, and they certainly aren't moisture. On the bottom, I don't know if you can see on the right-hand side on my screen, this is a conference where Ryan Wood was in Florence, and a woman took a cell phone and photographed 2 little circles darting around the room just because I was talking about orbs. These are other photos of orbs. On the bottom, this is England during a crop circle tour. That's Simeon Hind. You may know him. This is in Castel Sant'Angelo in Rome. Very old structure. This is not a piece of moisture. Here is a conference we did in Italy, and there is more. This journey is filled with new and exciting things. And the light phenomenon, what you saw, the fast walkers, and it's so ironic because the piece about me that Robert Miles edited in Fast Walkers has that orb pulsing in between what I'm saying, and that was not planned. That was, when I saw that, I said, how come they put that there when I just wrote a book about this? And how come I'm looking at NASA film footage that has these entities or these craft or this new phenomenon in it? So I know this is the road that I'm taking right now into investigating this. So if you have incredible orb pictures, send them to me. And I've got a brand new website, by the way. It's paulaharris.com. Finally, it's an Exopolitics website you can go to. And I really hope that other researchers get into this, because the film footage that I can't show you tonight with the cutting of the tether, STS-75 had at least 30 of these pulsating craft or whatever they are around them. And all NASA could say was, oh, there's a lot of lights there, light phenomenon there. And this tether was cut and went into deep space. So I think we need to look at the UFO entities not only as grays or reptilians, as Nordic or whatever. They are people that live among us right now. Things are happening that are very exciting in the world right now. There's a lot more openness right now. And I think that incidences like this, where we all get together once a year to share information, will make a difference. And in the end, I thank you, Terry.